welcome to Track 6 afternoon session. Today on the stage we have AI Bit the Hand That Created It by Mr. Amar Sonik. He's an IT professional expertise spanning infrastructure, network architecture, and information security. He's been an organizer of B-Side Singapore since 2019, fostering knowledge sharing and community collaboration, and he brings hands-on experience from roles across IT support, systems, and cybersecurity. He's passionate about mentoring and delivering practical insights to help others grow in the field. So please welcome to the stage, Mr. Amar Sonik.
Thank you guys. And adding to that, I'm also pleased to share that I've recently joined the Bog Radio Hour, and several other initiatives behind the Hacker 213 brand. With that out of the way, so with the introduction of ChatGPT or large language models, we've all used them in some ways. Maybe it helped us, write some programs, improve some documentation, polish your resume. I know I have used that. And while using it, your mind starts to race. What if this could, help the world leap forward in ways we can't even imagine. But here's a twist. This technology, far from being a gift, may be our modern day Pandora box, because what was meant to help may have also hurt, and hence AI bit the hand that created it. So how did we get here and why? Let's find out. Yeah, you know who this is. So sorry, there was an animation that was supposed to go on. But yeah, do you remember the first time when you first heard of OpenAI? Oh, there you go. Sorry. For me, it started at a Google event. I think it was called Google Lambda. I was watching the demo, and it was incredible, and it just got me started. And I was like, I signed up for it, and I quickly got the information, and I started experimenting with it. And the first thing that I asked was, what do you need to do to plant a tree? That was my that was my first prompt. And then it spit out everything, like you need fertilizers and whatnot, and and it just gave me the works. And then later on, a friend texted me and told me like, hey, have you heard of ChatGPT? And then I try experiment, and he sent me a link. I try experimenting with it, and then after that, it clicked. I was like, wow, this is so different. So we've got AI right now. It's here. It's real. But let me throw this out there. Why do you use it? For me, I started as an enrichment. I wanted to learn faster. I wanted to level up my skill. I wanted to be, I wanted to better my acumen. And basically, I was treating it as an all AI IT teacher. And let's be honest. We all want to get. We all want to be a little smarter. And we have this AI stewardship with us. But here's where it gets interesting. If it can answer all my questions, what's stopping me from asking the ones that people usually avoid? A close friend of mine put it to the test. And you wouldn't believe this. He asked AI the recipe for crystal meth. Sorry, the presentation gods are just not with me today. So I blurred it out. So yeah, here. So here's where it gets interesting. And stop and think. AI has really reached this level of maturity, but where are we really in AI times? So right now we are in ANI. A lot of people want to, some of them are saying that we are in agentic AI, in between ANI and agentic AI. But you know, traditionally that's defined as AI built for one specific task. Like we have AI playing chess, writing code, driving a car. But let's be honest, that definition is starting to blur. People are running multiple agents and models side by side, training them together. And AI looks a lot less narrow than it used to be. Now, if you look at the timeline on AGI, the human level isn't expected until 2040 and between 2040 to 2080. We are slowly, on paper, that sounds decades away. But the thing is, look at the pace and progress. And with that, I just want to add this over here. So Microsoft just announced a quantum chip. So imagine a dozen of this stacked together, running inference on LLM. And suddenly the gap between ANI and AGI doesn't feel so wide. So that blend of advanced AI and quantum computing, it's just not an upgrade. It feels like flipping into a whole new dimension, faster, stronger, and smarter. But here's the kicker. We can think, we can picture limits, but in reality, we don't even know where the ceiling is. What feels like, the edge today might just be a shallow end. Guys, if you can click on the. Thank you. So over the last few years, we've been watching AI go from niche research to mainstream adoption almost overnight. Tools like ChatGPT, Claude, and Grok, and are everywhere. So they've completely shifted on how we think, work, learn, and creativity. But the momentum comes with a wave of concern. Almost the powerful says, that it's beyond their control. It's beyond our control. And others frame it as, mark of the beast, something we should avoid entirely. But just like Newton's law, for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. The same force that's driving breakthrough and also creates disruptions. Businesses are also experimenting with AI to reduce human roles, summarizing reports, automating tasks, and even replacing entire entry-level programmers with AI-assisted coding. And that raises a question: where does this leave the newcomers? Those are trying to break in, gain experience, and learning the ropes. Too often the reality is about innovation and cost cutting. So who here has already jumped on the AI and LLM bandwagon? Wow. Okay. So you you do know universities are using it to help professors teach with research. Lawyers are using it for drafting legal research with it, sometimes even cutting down paralegal or junior staff. And then in financing, AI analyzing markets, spotting patterns to take weeks of charts. And now that happens in seconds. So that brings more capability, but also more risk, more risk when human gets pulled out of the loop. Now, here's where it gets a little darker. AI without guardrails is already out there. You might heard of things like do anything now. Have you heard of Dan? Anyone heard of Dan? So it's the AI that, that is without guardrails, and you can throw anything at it and it will do exactly as what you prompt it to do. And then underground model that people are tweaking to remove restriction. One example is DPAT. This what is known as White Rabbit Neo. It actually started as a legitimate project, but built for DevOps and red teaming. And but it's stripped down. It's a stripped down version running locally. It just shows how dangerous unregulated AI can be when anyone can spin up with zero oversight. And people aren't stopping there. Some people are literally racing to build AI-powered cyber weapons. And a while back, I floated the idea. Last year, I floated the idea on APT AI, autonomous AI acting as advanced persistent threat. So imagine that turning into a product, APT as a service. And this isn't just theory. Recently, researchers have uncovered something called prompt lock. So it's the first known AI-powered ransomware. It's a proof of concept that uses locally hosted LLM to generate malicious scripts on the fly. We're talking real-time adaptation, finding files, deciding which one to exfiltrate, and then encrypting them, all without a human writing a single piece of code in advance. This is what makes the clock feels like it's ticking a whole lot faster, more than people realize. So here's where things gets real, starts getting real. Definitely for folks who are still trying to wrap their heads or mind around LLM, prompt engineering, and automation. Think about it. Low-paying jobs, non-technical jobs are already disappearing. How many of you guys have been to a fast food kiosk and seen, McDonald's where, it's just automated, So, yeah, but fast food kiosks are slowly replacing cashiers. Self-checkout is everywhere. That's old news, I know. But here's the twist. It's not just for service work anymore. Even tech jobs are shifting. Entry-level programmers, the folks that usually cut their teeth on small projects, are now competing with tools like Grok, Claude, or ChatGPT to crank out codes in seconds. And that raises a big question. Where does that leave people who need these roles first to learn and grow? Maybe one generation can adapt, maybe two generation can adapt, but at some point, this imbalance is going to catch up with society. But on a larger scale, you can feel it. It's fueling the bigger cycle of fear, uncertainty, and disruption. Quick show of hands, how many of you have taken programming classes? Oh, wow. Or maybe taught yourself some coding. Okay, nice. There's a good number of you. Now let's fast forward that. Imagine what a programming class feels like. 7 years from now. Do we really think that students will still want to grind the weeks of learning codes and learning what a tuple is and or list is, or how to set up variables, or does it shift into something else like prompt engineering, starting with the basics, learning how to craft prompts that actually get results you want while still keeping good cyber hygiene? And here's a fun thought. What if we start seeing certification pop up around this? Maybe like, CPE, Certified Prompt Engineering for Beginners. That could be, building context for rich programming, or even advanced prompt engineering professional. I mean, don't hold me to the names. I'm just throwing it out there. But the big idea is, we might be on the edge of a brand new learning path, one that's not only relevant to the world we're stepping in, but maybe feels like more accessible than traditional programming. Okay, the way I look at it, here's a quote from, from a very famous hacker. The idea that today's AI prompt engineers are nothing more than yesterday's SQL writers. How many agree to this? They're no different than what SQL and database administration were doing years ago. I mean, like, when you look at it, when you put in prompts, it's kind of similar to the SQL. Only thing is you are getting human-like statements back. You're able to converse it back and forth. So back then, it was all about structured queries and pulling meaning out of massive data repositories. But what has changed now is instead of writing code syntax, we are interacting with them through natural language. On the surface, it feels like a huge leap forward. But if you take a step back, it's still the underlying concept. Ask a structured question to extract a useful information. That said, large language models bring their own set of challenges. They are powerful, but they don't always grasp human context or the human nuances. For example, if I were to tell ChatGPT, hey, that's really sick, man. But before that, if I were to show you something, if I tell you, hey, that's really sick, I'm just talking, this is something really cool. But if I tell ChatGPT, ChatGPT is going to route me to the nearest urgent care. So that's why, the old advice, learning to code feels outdated. I remember when that used to be a golden ticket, but as how Ian Bremmer joked, it's basically worse advice than getting a face tattoo. At least with a face tattoo, you can tell people, it was a bad weekend in Vegas. But with coding, you spend years learning a language, and then overnight AI shows up and be like, hey man, okay, thanks, we've automated that. So even though we've moved into a natural language interaction, there's still a long road ahead when it comes to managing slangs and nuances. So the next video, that's the first slide. Sorry, guys. Yep. Okay, sorry about that. I put this video together to show how I built the site, but just to point out how fast people jumped on this once I shared it. For this little experiment, I used Grok. I started by asking out, a bunch of questions, and then explained the basics to it, and then pushed it further until it generated a huge course site with the price tag and all. The quick back and forth, gave me a glimpse of what AI-powered learning might look like in the near future. So now the real question is, if this course was packaged up and handed to you, would you take it? Sorry, there was a pause button over there. You just kind of. I think most of us would, but the truth is, these skills aren't optional anymore. Yep, it's okay. They are how we stay relevant, and it's not about finding some final answers because there isn't one. It's constantly learning, adapting, and trying new ways to keep up. That's the real takeaway. what I made here is just a simple idea of how fast things could move. But honestly, this isn't just some future vision. It's already happening. Um, for example, AI Cert has just rolled out certification like AI Plus Ethical Hacker. It mixes cybersecurity and AI, teaching people how to use AI for penetration testing, spotting vulnerabilities, building defenses against AI-driven attacks. That shows us two things. First, AI isn't just about creating tools. Learning platform it's about opening up brand new career path, especially areas like AI tools, AI security. And second, the fact that certification like this exists means the future is already being packaged and sold. Companies know the workforce needs to get ready for roles like this right now. So if my Grok experiment was just a sneak peek, certification like this has already shifted and is already here. The only question is, how are you going to adapt and get ahead of it? So remember Nokia 8210? So that was the phone back in the days, right around that time, that was that's when the first iPhone showed up. So how many of you remember that moment when the iPhone first showed up? Okay. So what was your gut reaction? Did you thought that the phone was here to stay? Did you thought that it was going to be, just, it was just for a brief moment? But yeah, sorry. Okay. So for me, it was when I first got it, I was like, wow, this is the future, this is a shift. And others were like, it's not going to last. And no way this is going to take off. But here's the thing, beyond all the hype, and there was also denial, hesitation, uncertainty, and people weren't sure about what to make of it. It took time, and slowly the skepticism faded, and the iPhone moved from being a cool gadget to woven into daily life right now. And fast forward today, the same cycle is playing out with AI. A buddy of mine was in a meeting with a bunch of programmers, infrastructure programmers, and he casually asked, so how are you using Grok in your daily work? And I swear, the room was just crickets. This is an infrastructure guy and sitting down with programmers. So, and you can see what the adoption rate is like. So that's exactly the same stage we are in back right now. Early skepticism, hesitation, and maybe a little denial. And just like that, the iPhone is, it's only a matter of time before the AI isn't something new anymore. It becomes something part of how we live and work. Here's where I want to leave you with some closing thoughts, call to action, if I may. Start recognizing that prompt engineering isn't some niche experiment anymore. It's going to be part of everyday life sooner than we think. Whether we like it or not, businesses, school, government, it's already sneaking into how all these run. And it's starting to show up in our daily routines. Now, when we talk about agentic AI, there's one principle that you can't ignore. Redundancy is everything. But here's the tricky part. How do you build redundancy if you put all your eggs inside one AI basket? If things keeps moving at this pace, 3 to 5 years from now, we'll find ourselves in a weird spot where humans aren't just competing with AI, but risk of becoming redundant if we don't keep up and adapt. So what do you actually do about it? Use AI in your daily work, play around with it, play around with ChatGPT, Copilot, Midjourney, whatever tools catches your eye. Don't wait until companies makes it mandatory for you. Get out, get your hands dirty, keep learning, short courses, certification workshops, and an hour or two adds up to it. And then avoid over dependency. um, don't tie yourself to one tool. You know, if it doesn't work with ChatGPT, jump into Grok. If it doesn't work in Grok, jump into Claude. You know, there's a plethora of AI tools out there. And then this is one thing that hits home to all of us. And it's around staying ethical. You know, do things that makes better without sacrificing, trust, privacy. I know this is a very sensitive topic, but you want to put in guardrails and around this because just 2 days ago, I've read some article online of a kid asking ChatGPT how to take its own life. And the mom has sued ChatGPT. So this is a very this is something that that we really have to take into consideration when we're using AI. Experiment outside of work. Use AI tools. You can use AI tools for personal projects. And when before the start of this talk, I was asking, and everyone's using that. Good on you guys. and also, don't limit yourself. Learn with others. Share. Build a community around that. And also think about hybrid. It's not just AI with AI, but AI versus human. And then you have multiple outputs and gather that and share that. And I'm not saying this to scare you. I'm saying it to make you stop and think. And someone once said this, the real risk isn't AI that will take your job. The risk is someone who knows how to use AI better than you that will take your job. And AI is rising faster, almost anything that we have seen before. It's powerful, no doubt, but I also remind myself, and I want you to remember that power unchecked can be both a tool and a threat. The choice is, it's in our hands how we use it. With that, I want to give a special thanks to Leno for his inspiration and guidance. With that, I want to thank you guys for being here. I hope you find this informative. And I'd like to thank you for being here. I do apologize for the PowerPoint that was disrupted just now. Yep.
Does anybody have questions? We've got plenty of time for questions.
Thank you. Testing.
Hey, Brad, how's it going?
That's going awesome. So, do you feel that with the onset of AI, organizations have substantial gaps as far as their governance programs and security controls?
I'm sorry, what was that? I lost you there.
So, as far as organizations, just kind of generalizing, do you feel that there is a gap with governance and security controls?
I think, yes, I feel that there is a gap, and that gap needs to be addressed. But it has to start. Whether it starts at the top or whether it starts at mid-level. There is a gap, and we have to quickly address the gap. It's about addressing the gap where, there needs to be training, education. There needs to be awareness, because right now, as the way we see it with AI, everyone is jumping on the AI bandwagon, and everyone is going at it. But the thing is, without the proper guidance, and without someone who's familiar with it, who's been down that path, to show them like, hey, this is how it's done, this is how we need to do, and this is how we need to protect, newbies, newcomers to AI, and how to use it. Because right now, I've had instances where people have come to me and, hey, let's, I want to use this to start building things, and I'm also using this. They're throwing like they're throwing medical stuff that they've gone to see a doctor, and they take that report and they throw into AI and they start self-medicate without having the interaction. So there's a gap. In answer to that question, there is a gap. But the thing is, that's why I'm saying there needs to be education around this.
Any other questions? Yes.
Thanks, Sonik. Great talk.
Hey, thank you, Chris.
In the DevSecOps space, where you spend a lot of your time and your involvement there, where do you see AI best fitting there in today's world? The most practical way, if there is one.
Okay. Give me a moment. Let me see how I can best answer that. More around automation, day-to-day mundane automation. But I would not go as far as to just use it for things where we need human eyes, a set of human eyes to look at codes before it's being pushed over to the production environment. We've seen in the news it has happened. Codes being pushed, even with a human being involved, mistakes does happen. And with AI, if it's left unchecked, and we are too dependent on it, then it's our own coming.
Who else? Questions? Looks like that's it. Oh, no, one more.
So, sorry. I am a self-admitted kind of AI hater. So it's a lot because it has been just shoved down my throat. You gave a lot of really good advice about what I can do to kind of help get around that and immerse myself. Because you're right, Pandora's box has been opened. AI is here to stay. But is there any other advice that you can give somebody like me who is incredibly resistant to using AI in like my day-to-day life, my work, and things like that?
Let me see how I can best give you a reply on that one. I mean, I can understand. We all at some point in time we have that fear factor, but at the same time, having I would say having friends or being in a community or getting in touch with someone who's able to share and paint the other side of AI to not instill fear, but at least project some sort of light, as in like this is what it can do. I know as far as what I've painted earlier on, there is that other side of it, but it's easier said. But take baby steps. It's what I'm saying, because all of us have different learning curves. Some of us pick it up fast and we jump at it, and before you know it, we are developing stuff and we are saving companies tons of money and whatnot. But there are some of us who take who are slow in embracing it. So what I would say is take baby steps. I know it's hard, but yeah, baby steps would work right now.
All right, if we have no more questions, let's give it up for Amar Sonik.
Yep. Thank you. I'll be around if you still want to ask questions.